I'm glad you're back, and tonight I'm going to be cooking on the Blackstone Grill. I actually thought it would be fun if we did sort of a series of Blackstone recipes. I'm going to start with one that is pretty basic. It's basically hamburger sliders. I have some of my sourdough rolls left over from the farmer's market this weekend. Here comes Clark coming out. So I cut those sort of like, they're kind of like Hawaiian style rolls, but they're sourdough. There they go. Anyway, I cut those into like a bun style. I'll show you how I did that and everything, but I want to go ahead and get the grill, the little griddle going. So it started to heat up. You can see some smoke come off of it here. And now I'm just going to use a paper towel, put a little oil, and clean it off a little bit before I put down some bacon to cut. Even though you oil it when you clean it after using it, you still want to add a little bit more oil before you cook anything as well. And this will just pick up any dust or particles that's on here too and remove them before we put food on here. Okay, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Close it for a second. Turn it down just a little bit because I have it on high just to preheat. And then I'm going to run inside. I have a little foil liner for the grease catch in the back. I want to pop that foil liner in before I get anything cooking in there because I don't want to clean the grease catch if I don't have to. So let me go grab those. Okay, so it has a little grease trap that goes on the back of it. And these are some super nice disposable foil liners. So I'll just put that on here. I don't know if you can see or not, but the, oh, there now you can see the pollen all over top. Is this everything like that at your house too? Okay, so I just have some bacon. I cut the slices into half so that they're a little bit smaller for our sliders. I'm just gonna put those on. Okay, y'all just hop inside with me for just a minute. I did my meat already as well. This is just ground beef, about 1 pound of ground beef. And I mixed it up with some Worcestershire sauce and some, what did I use for seasoning? This Kinder's all-purpose seasoning. I really like this one. It's one of my favorites. And it is very good for all-purpose things. So I also chopped up some onions, 1 onion, and we will cook those and the hamburger meat all together. So you could do this one of 2 ways. You could roll out your meat into one big flat patty. I'll show you my rolls back here as well. This is my sourdough rolls. Just the, it's a 9-pack of rolls. It looks a little nicer than this before I break into it. So I already took it out of here and then I cut it lengthwise so that we can just take the 2 parts apart. But so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook the meat like as ground meat and break it up and everything, but you could do it 2 ways. You could either do it like that, cook it and crumble it, or you can roll it out into one big flat patties like flatty. Maybe that is what that's called, a flatty. Oh my God, I cracked myself up. You can roll the meat into one very large flat patty. I'm dying. And then cook the flat patty or flatty, if you want to call it that. Oh shoot, I might have to get myself back together. Cook the flat patty as one piece and then put the flat patty onto the buns. But I'm gonna cook mine as crumbled like ground meat. And then I will put all of that on, top it with a little bit of cheese. Actually, probably like half and half because Alan doesn't really want to eat cheese right now. So I'll probably put some cheese on there and some not. And then I like shredded up some lettuce. I wish I had some tomatoes, but I do not have tomatoes. I just don't buy tomatoes at the grocery store. I would rather grow them. So I just have to wait until that time. But anyway, I'm gonna cook the onions as well. So It's good to cook the bacon first because then we can use sort of the fat from the bacon, cook everything else in there. And then I'll show you what we do after that. Once we get the meat and everything cooked up, I'll show you how to kind of assemble it and pull the little sliders together as a delicious dinner. Okay, so I brought some things out here because now we need to sort of assemble a little bit. Oh, I forgot one thing. Okay, let me run back in and get one thing that I forgot, which is a little bit of like kind of a grate. Let me run in and get it. I'm gonna push this meat out to the side first. I think the meat's okay, actually. Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't like getting too brown. I'm gonna just set that there. And that's just to keep the buns elevated off the direct flat top, because I don't think that that would be good. I think that they would burn if they were directly on the flat top there. All right, well, don't stick to the plate. So I'm gonna put the bottom buns, or the bottom rolls, this is my sourdough rolls again, down there. I'll set the top to the side. 1 second. And now I have some butter and Worcestershire sauce. Hey, no. Worcestershire sauce. I'm just gonna brush a tiny bit of that on these buns, just to add a little flavor. We're also gonna use this on the top. Now, I have this cheese. I'm gonna add a little cheese on maybe like 3 of them. I'll add cheese on top and bottom of 3. If you're doing cheese, if you don't care about cheese going all over the whole thing, then do cheese on the whole thing, but I'm just gonna try to be conservative. For mine, I'll have more cheese than Alan will have on his. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of cheese on Alan's. Okay, now the top. This is the butter and Worcestershire. Everything bagel seasoning. Now we're gonna close the lid up and let it warm through. Of course, everything is cooked, but we're just gonna let everything heat through. So I'm gonna set my timer for about 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. Let's see how they are. Not quite hot all the way through. I'm gonna make sure the cheese and everything on the inside is melted, so we'll leave it a little bit longer. Okay, it's time to remove these from the griddle. And I have myself a sheet pan here. I just put a piece of parchment on it, and the goal is to not burn myself. So I brought myself a rag or towel. I'm gonna try to just take the whole grate here and put it over onto parchment. I'm making a big fat mess. Can she do it? Yeah, no problem. Okay, that looks so good. Okay, I need to get my spatula back out here so that I can clear off the grill and show you exactly how I clean the griddle after I use it. It's the easiest to do when it's still nice and hot. So I turn the heat up to high. Usually I will eat dinner and then come back out and clean it. But since I have a little bit of time before Alan gets home, before we actually eat, then I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up right now while it's still nice and hot. So I'm using basically the same tools that I had before. I like to do tongs so that I can rub on some oil in the end, and I like to have a nice sharp scraper like this. If you buy a set of like Blackstone tools, it usually will have spatulas galore. I'll link to the set that I got just off of Amazon. So first, I'm gonna get all of these bits. Try not to make your ears bleed with me doing this, but okay, now I have a squirt bottle with just water, plain old water. Okay, that's just gonna steam off and deglaze any of the rest of the bits that are kind of stuck on. Now I have 2 paper towels here. One I'm going to use after this to put the oil on, but first I want to use one to pick up any bits of food that are still sort of remaining. So this one's trash. Now we can basically turn it off at this point. I'm gonna turn my gas off too. And I've got avocado oil here. I always use avocado oil. Use whatever oil it is that you just typically use. Something that is for high heat. So you don't want to use like olive oil or something because it's not necessarily for high heat. But vegetable oil or avocado oil, whatever is fine. Now I'm just going to use my paper towel again to smooth this all around, and then it will sort of, with the heat of that, it will adhere and we'll be good to go. Okay, all done, good as new. So the oil stays on there, it protects it from rusting or having any kind of moisture get onto the surface that would cause rust. So you just close it up, let it cool down, and put it away. I have ours. Well, Alan made us a delightful little rolling cart. You can see it's on a little cart, and so we just wheel the whole cart into the actual garage in there when we're not using it, and just put it out of the weather, out of the way. That way we don't have to cover it with a big cover or anything like that. Now this is a smaller size Blackstone that we got from, I think it's like actually a tabletop one, and we got it from Costco, but it's just the 2 of us, so we're not cooking, you know, big huge meals and things like that, so we didn't really need anything bigger. Now this cooks a lot at one time. It's still a big surface. I'll put exactly how big it is. I can't remember offhand, but with it on the little cart there, it just rolls away and undercover or into the garage. That way we don't have to worry about it being out in the weather at all. So super. Okay, that was way too much. I took about 3/4 of that out. I'm gonna have to try one of these tiny burgers out. I mean, they are so adorable. Oh, I can't wait. They look delicious, of course. I mean, how can you go wrong? Zeus is drinking water. True to form, everybody's got to get their water on. Okay. I got some lettuce on this one. You can put some like pickles, onions, fresh onions, tomatoes for sure. No, sir. Okay. Put a little bun on. Oh my goodness. She looks great. Now, we have to do the hunch over the plate because otherwise we're gonna make a huge mess, right? Here we go. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that is delicious. Season that meat up as much as you want because that really is providing a lot of the flavor here. And then of course, get a good bun. If you want my sourdough roll recipe, I can definitely post that on the website for you. Now we should make those together sometime because they are the best rolls ever. And the topping, that butter and Worcestershire sauce, delicious as well. That adds a lot of flavor here. So make the sauce, make the little sliders, make them a flat piece of meat if you want, or do them like this. Also, I was going to tell you, so when you pull these off of the Blackstone, if you're serving these all at one time, you know, like for your family or something like that, for a crowd, you could go ahead right then and there and top it with diced onions and diced onions and tomatoes and shredded lettuce and everything, whatever you want to doll it up with, you could put it all on at once if you wanted to, and that would look really cute and impressive. Then stick in some skewers into each one and cut it apart after that. That would be so cute, especially if you're serving it to a crowd. So for us, I'm just kind of leaving it meat and cheese, and then we can dress it however we want to dress it right before we eat it. And this little pan of these will last us a couple of days. I'm sure Alan will be reheating his in the air fryer as he goes. So this is so good. Okay, night number 1 of Blackstone recipes. This is a delicious recipe. You can't go wrong with little beef sliders. So try it. This next night, I am making what is probably one of my favorite dinners, really one of my favorite things in general to eat, and that is tacos. You just cannot go wrong with some delicious marinated meat on a taco with a squeeze of lime on it. I mean, that is just the best. That's the best food right there. So this is a Carne Asada marinade that I'm making here, and it was so easy and super flavorful. This was probably the best steak marinade that I've ever made. So I'm just squeezing together lots of lime juice, lots of orange juice. This is some oil that goes in there. Also, I use the Kinder's has I use their Cuban seasoning for this actually because it has more citrus flavors in it. I put the recipe, the original Carne Asada recipe on my website. I have used that one as well, but this night I just threw together what I had on hand because I didn't have jalapenos like the original recipe calls for. And I didn't have any minced garlic on this night either, so I ended up using garlic powder. So it worked out just fine. It was so tasty, so tasty. So I think you'll love it if you give it a try. What I have there for steak is eye of round steak, I believe that was. It was very thinly sliced, and it was super easy to work with as well. So I'm just cutting it down a little bit further into some strips, and this is about 4 or 5 hours before I want to eat dinner. So I'm getting this marinade going pretty early in the day. That way things have time to get really, really flavorful, and they definitely did. So I like some onion in mine. You could also put some peppers or, bell peppers or things like that in with the marinade too. That would be delicious. I just know that Alan doesn't really care for bell peppers, so I thought I'm going to do some onion for us, and I'll skip the peppers on this night. And it turned out so delicious. So I just throw this into the refrigerator, go on about my day, and let this marinate for a while before I get going. And then later in the evening, you can see we're back at the Blackstone Grill, and I have it in a little bit different spot tonight because I wanted a better view. So I don't want to look at the back door. So I turned things around and moved out to a little bit further on the deck. And I thought we would cook dinner with a view on this night, at least have a little bit of greenery behind me. So you can see the dogs are always nearby. Whenever I'm doing anything, they are not far away. So I throw on the steak. It does not take very long to cook, and I'm basically cooking on a pretty low heat. You see the knobs are turned basically down to low at this point. I like to get things preheated nice and hot, and then I turn it down to low because this little grill gets hot. So once everything has had a few minutes, I move it all off to the side, and on this night I did some corn. So I ended up using, that is frozen corn. I just took it straight from the freezer, brought it on out, and threw it onto the Blackstone on a nice low heat again. And you can use the little steam cover if you have one of those, or you definitely don't have to have that as well. So I popped down to the greenhouse where at this time I still had some cilantro out in the greenhouse that I could use on my tacos for the night. So I wanted to pick a bunch of that, took it inside and gave it a quick wash before I finished up the dinner on this night. Now at this point in time, the cilantro has all bolted and died in there because the greenhouse heated up pretty quick once the day started getting warmer. So as you can see, I'm using that same Cuban seasoning on the corn, and I just add a little bit of oil as well so that it gets a nice char on it on the Blackstone grill there, and just let it cook until it gets nice and hot and heated through. For toppings for your little street tacos, cilantro, of course, is great, but you can also do some fresh, finely diced onion. I know we're putting onion with the meat as well, but you could do some fresh onion to go on top too, and that is so delicious. Sliced avocado is great. Of course, if you like sour cream or cheese or anything, cotija cheese is really good. I ended up putting some cotija cheese on this corn. It's more of a dry crumble cheese, and it's just kind of a salty kick to the corn. I didn't actually show it in the video here, but I had some of that in my refrigerator, so I topped it up when I got it inside with some of that cotija cheese. Now here's something that is sort of optional. I'm using the remaining meat marinade to dip my tortillas in to make them really, really flavorful before I put them on the grill and toast them up. So if you don't want to do this, it's certainly not required. I'm cooking them on the grill, and you'll see I get a nice char on them. I do give them a nice char and cook them up. That marinade on them makes them really, really flavorful when you go to make your tacos. So if you don't want to dip them in the remaining marinade, or if you already have gotten rid of it, just throw them on and toast them up on the dry grill, and they will turn out just fine too. Those are the small little street taco flour tortillas, and they were pretty tasty. They're nice and soft, and they have good chew to them as well. So I highly recommend those. This meal was quick and easy. It really did not take much work throughout the day, since that marinade just sat in the fridge on its own for several hours, and then basically just cook everything up on the grill and throw it together, and it was so tasty. Last night of cooking on the Blackstone Grill for this week, I ended up doing some marinated chicken, and this was marinated in teriyaki because I had an entirely different meal in my mind when I put the chicken in the marinade. I was going to do a stir fry because I thought that I had some leftover rice in the fridge. I didn't. I'm not sure what happened with that. Maybe I must have thrown it out, or we used more than I thought I did. I don't know. But when it came down to time to eat on this night, I was like, okay, well, I don't have rice like I thought, so I'm still going to cook this marinated chicken up. And I just did some smashed potatoes. That's the little new potatoes that you see right there. And then some broccoli. And it turned out great. It was totally delicious. So for the potatoes, what you want to do for those, you could cook the potatoes from raw on the Blackstone Grill, but it takes a very long time. And you get a better result if you go ahead and cook whatever potatoes you're going to put on your Blackstone, if you cook them ahead of time. So what I did with those little new potatoes, I just used some red potatoes like you saw there. I boiled them in water until they were fork tender. You don't want them falling apart or anything, but just boil them so that the inside of the potato gets done, and then pour the water off, let them sort of dry out in the pan for a little bit. You see, I just had them in my strainer there. And then bring them out to your Blackstone and smash them on the grill like this. I'm just using the little press that came with the set of tools that I bought. I'll link those below, of course. And I just press them down on the grill and they get nice and flat. That just gives them a whole lot of surface area to get really, really crispy. And on this night as well, I'm using clarified butter because I feel like it gives especially potatoes, I like to use clarified butter for. It gives things a lot more flavor than just using avocado oil or vegetable oil does. So the potatoes get nice and browned also if you use the butter because it's got a little bit of milk protein in it. So really, really tasty. And then on this night, I'm using frozen broccoli, as I said, but you see that dome lid there that I'm about to put on after I season it up with some lemon pepper. So I just season up my broccoli. It is completely frozen, but then I just use the dome lid on it because it takes a bit longer than like the corn that I did on the other night. And it needs some steam to get it all the way cooked and heated through. So after about 5 or 7 minutes, you can take the dome lid off and flip things around and you will see that it's almost perfectly cooked. It gets a nice crispy char on the exterior of the broccoli and it gets nice and soft inside. So now for the potatoes, the last thing that I'm going to add to them is some seasoning. As you saw, just some salt and pepper. You can use whatever seasonings that you like. And then I'm going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese down on those before I flip them over. And then that Parmesan is going to get super crusty and crispy when it hits the flat top there. So just give them a flip after I put a little cheese on and you will see that they get really, really crispy and done. And it turns out so yummy. Each one of these little Blackstone dinners was super easy. You can get as creative as you want to get with your Blackstone Grill. It is just a handy tool, really, it is. I use this a lot of times to cook up big batches of things like breakfast sausage or bacon or pancakes as well. So it's really convenient when you want to make a whole lot of something, or like this dinner where I'm cooking outside. I'm keeping all the smells out of my house. I'm keeping all the mess out of my house, except for the dishes, of course. But it's really nice, especially this time of year when the weather is so perfect for being outside later in the day. And it's just nice to spend it outside and cook up a really yummy meal on top of it. And when the chicken is done like that, I just remove it to the side and turn that side heat way, way down. You can adjust things to cool side, warm side, that type of thing to keep your chicken nice and warm, but not have it cooking and getting overcooked. Well, you guys will have to let me know whether or not you have a Blackstone Grill and what you like to make on your Blackstone Grill. I see so many recipes going around online for all of these really super creative, delicious dinners, well, meals of all kinds for the Blackstone Grill. So it's been really, really fun to get used to cooking on it and cleaning it and just enjoying it really since we have purchased it over the winter. And I just wanted to say I absolutely appreciate you being here today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I hope you will leave me a comment below saying hi, or maybe just a like on the video. And anyway, I hope to see you back here again real soon.